Hi, Nancy. Hi, everyone. Thanks to Jen and Ronya and everyone who helped to craft this event, and to you, Nancy, for inviting me. I appreciate the opportunity to think about you, to think about contact improvisation and everything. I wrote a ton of questions. Yes, I did write it all down. I'm going to be reading, which means there will only be occasional improvisations of I don't know, touching my face or breathing or timing, or maybe I'll reiterate something as I go through. I wrote a ton of questions, knowing that you couldn't respond to all of them, but hoping that in each section there'd be something that sparks a story or an opinion or a reflection. Of course, you can do the video out of order. You can pre-screen it and just pick two sections that you like. Obviously, you'll do whatever you want. And hello, audience. Hopefully, you'll also interact or engage. Today, each section has a title. First one's called Today. I want to start with a dancing check-in. In recent dancing or teaching, what are you most interested in? What are you troubled by, if anything? How has your dancing changed in the past 5 years? How do you experience aging in and around the dance? Not only personally, but in the larger communities that you dance in. Do you expect to dance forever? Race. Nancy, you were one of several people on the CI36 teachers panel when someone asked about the lack of black people or people of color in most contact improv contexts. I found the responses pretty disappointing, and I've been a big critic just of even how that question gets asked. But in that moment, I was left to consider Nina Martin's assessment that this group, this we, lacked the skill and experience to answer the question. Do you think about the disproportionate whiteness of contact improvisation's teaching, festival, and jamming contexts? Is it something you notice or are concerned about? Can you explain it? And by that I mean, can you explain how a dance, inspired by the universal and humanist aspects of the body and spirit, seems unable to shift its demographics racially or beyond the segregated borders of the world outside the dance studio? Most of U.S. American society is racially segregated. Other than hip-hop, that includes most dance studios. And that probably includes some hip-hop studios. When contact improvisation is praised as a dance that anybody can do and that it has its practitioners on every continent, how does it seem to cross, the dance? How does the dance seem to cross some social borders more easily than others? I think that the dancing practice of contact provides tools for experimenting with social borders and identities. But perhaps it's our social practice that creates less visible but still powerful borders. And by social practices, I mean I'm trying to distinguish between the improvised dancing from the ways that we organize or set fees or promote our work or decide what to wear or eat or what is important in our lives. Maybe it's our community making that is white and not our dancing. Just a proposal. What do you think? Gender. I consider contact improv as a potentially queer space, meaning a space where social norms of gender and sexuality can be temporarily ignored, subverted, reversed, or played with. One approach to improvisation is based on the jazz idea of improvising on or around a standard, where the standard is a well-known or iconic tune. I think that contact improvisation uses gender and sexuality norms as a kind of standard, whether consciously or not. And by that I mean that gender norms become a kind of base for improvisations and play, for taking apart and putting back together in playful and curious ways. Does this resonate with your thinking or dancing practice? Nancy, have you ever considered yourself or your dancing feminist or queer? Considering most of Western dance history, you're queer, meaning not typically female in your approach to dancing. I mean, you come from sport, you engaged in muscular play with guys, many of whom had little or no traditional dance training, to create a new approach to dancing, perhaps the first post-gender dancing other than free dancing to rock and roll and R&B. So I guess I'm asking you if you've experienced any kind of liberated space as a woman, as a female dancer, through your experience of contact improvisation. Sex. Nancy, you ring a bell often to call for quiet and focus in class, and you've suggested that participants not engage in sexual relations within the community of the workshop. It seems that Buddhism or an ascetic meditation practice influences your teaching. Can you talk about sex between students and why you think this isn't useful in deepening one's bodily awareness and dancing intelligence? Or rather, maybe you can comment on how the suggestion of prohibiting sex is its own teacher, provoking an awareness that might not otherwise be awakened. The way I see it or feel it, the sensing body is the common ground for both dancing and sex. How do you experience resonance and or friction between your dancing duets and your sexual or romantic duets? The underscore. I've only participated in one underscore at CI 36. I had a lot of fun dancing, mostly ignoring the score, but digging the vibe, especially the heightened focus of almost everyone, and the deeper than usual listening, and the engagement with the whole room, the whole space, the individual dancers as some kind of singular vibratory network. The underscore was at its weakest for me during the harvest, the post-dancing verbal sharing. At least half the speakers spoke in either a collective we, or they made vague statements that assumed everyone's agreement. Cliches of feeling peace or feeling connected with everyone and everything and maybe God too, as if that's what everyone had experienced. It seemed to deny the practice of improvisation that had actually created their good feelings. Their statements began to form a kind of non-consensual ideology, trying to fix or set the meaning of the improvisation. Nancy, what do you want from the harvest, or what do you appreciate from the harvest? And how do you deal with the assumed agreement? Is it possible that our community process might improve if we practiced more improvised speaking, or speaking as dancing? Festivals. I have some unease about the growth of contact improvisation's festival culture, despite my wonderful experience as an occasional teacher on the festival circuit. Do you experience the increase in festivals having an influence on the dancing or on the development of the dancing? Festivals seem to increase contact improv's visibility, but perhaps only in certain already contained cultural contexts. Festivals clearly increase the pool or community of teachers working internationally and their opportunities to make money. And the festivals also encourage transnational friendships, collaborations, exchanges, and love affairs. That's got to be good for dancing, right? But is it possible that the festivals also encourage a kind of unengaged tourism that can erase or ignore class tensions or asymmetrical power relations between dancers who can travel and those who can't? Between the middle-class American or European dancers and the dancers elsewhere? And what about in India or Thailand, where the festival economy and community is primarily non-local and white? And what would engaged tourism look like, whether in India or Thailand or in Israel, where a cultural boycott has been debated for years? I guess all of these questions about festivals are trying to consider our dancing in a broader context, in the global economy, in an international network. With your 40 years in the dance, Nancy, what could you say what contact improvisation's role or presence is in the world? And are transnational festivals changing this role or presence? All right, the final section, energy. As usual, I've focused probably overly on the political questions, and only now do I arrive at questions about energy, magic, ritual, and those experiences in our dancing that defy discourse or complicate politics or resist description. It might not be obvious from my over-talkative style, but I love that dancing, especially improvisation, is difficult to explain or describe with teaching or writing. Contact improv has its recognizable rituals of repetition and tradition. The jam, the duet, the festival with classes. The dancing is a ritual of shared practice. It's a way of constructing space, of constructing social relations, and of shared meaning. But I'm wondering if there's a deeper ritual, of initiation perhaps, or of healing transformation, that's potential in the dancing. The other thing I think about in this category is about the word energy, and not for it or against it, but I'm wondering, do you talk about energy when you teach? Um, I, I'm wondering if it's useful to have words that don't have clear meanings, like energy, to describe the edges of sensation, intuition, or resonance, especially between people or within the body. I mean, the word energy can be useful to invoke the stuff beyond language in our dancing, or maybe not beyond, but in the realm of the poetic, where gestures speak and where images emerge and vanish regardless of our intention. Does magic happen while dancing? And are these terms, energy and magic, useful to you, even or ritual? Well, I'm way past 10 minutes, my YouTube limit, and I'm going to stop. And I really appreciated the time to think about this, so thanks. Cheers.